Hi, welcome to Ladies of Another View on back, and we are joined with Jan and Mary, and I'm Patty.
And if you hear anything loud, it's actually thundering. So let's just bring the rain and no
Yes,
hail and none
please.
of that, or even grass fires with lightning. But we do need the rain.
Right,
yes.
we do. And you know, there's some flood warnings in some of the
Yeah.
counties in North Dakota. So they're going from drought to flood warnings.
Yes.
But we'll take it.
And Jamestown got 10 inches last night, south of Jamestown, 10 inches of rain.
Wow.
You don't need that. We don't need that.
Well,
Yikes.
no, but this is our second summer with drought weather.
Yeah.
So we do need the moisture, not complaining. Yeah, but you know, you get some pretty wild weather here. And as a matter of fact, we're going to talk about that with our guests. We have authors Jackie McGregor and Janine Knopp, and their maiden name is Pfeiffer, and they're the Pfeiffer sisters. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. What a
very much.
pleasure to be here.
Oh, perfect. There you are.
There you are.
And they were in Bismarck yesterday having a book signing at Ferguson Books. And we tried to get them in studio, but you had to go to Jamestown because you're doing another book signing at the bookstore there, right? Dakota Bookstore?
That's
the
where we
name
are
right?
today.
Right now,
Okay.
closing up.
And the name of their book is While the Windmill Watched, A Slice of Rural America in the 1950s. And so the Pfeiffer sisters grew up in Menoken, North Dakota. And it's a very different world today than it was in the 1950s. And so that's what I love about your book. It's like doing a little time travel and going back into time.
Yes,
So-
a life in our community in the 1950s was far different than what it is now. We, of course, the Menoken community, as were many small farming communities, were very cohesive. They had their own set of government. They had the post office. They had a grade school. They had churches. They had businesses in the towns. And the leadership of the community came from the local people, most of them were farmers, as was our dad and mom. And yet, at that time also, Menoken was not a bedroom community. It was its own community. And versus now, it's a far different look. There is no more grain elevator. There's no more railroad depot. The post office is closed. The churches, the churches are both still going. And we have a wonderful grade school still. But there still is a difference in the whole sociological aspect of a farming community now versus what it was when we grew up.
I noticed that I was looking through your book, and while you were girls, you got TV for the first time and a phone for the first time. That had to be a pretty dramatic change of life.
And actually, if you back up, we got electricity for the first time. My parents purchased the section of land for cash in 1946. Mom and Dad moved on to the piece of ground in September of 1946. They had $40 in the bank and a baby on the way, and that was me. I came in February, and it happened to be one of the coldest times of the year, that particular year.
Well, that's interesting because, you know, February in the 1950s versus February today, even the insulation, the heating, you know, stoking the
Yes.
furnace and all of that stuff, everything has changed. And you have a baby with a wet diaper, cloth diapers versus throwing one in the garbage can. You know, everything, when you think about the level of inconvenience or the level of conveniences that we have today, it's a big difference. And so what motivated you to write the book?
I guess it began in 2004 when I decided to write the story called My Story. I decided to write it for my daughters and for Janine's daughters. So I wrote a little over 30 pages on the computer, and I read it to her, and then I put it away. So then last January, Janine said, you know, that sounds like a good book. We should write a book. And so I said, oh no, not me. I don't write books. Well, she said, think about it, pray about it. And all of a sudden, here we are. It happened.
And when we started out writing the book, Jackie pretty much developed the chapter titles or what she wanted to write about or what she had already recorded. And then I added my 2 cents, you might say, and even though our writing styles are really different, Jackie is more of a facts and figures. Let's get at the specifics. And I'm more about, let's think outside the box and add some emotion to it and sights and smells and sounds to make it interesting for the reader. And in order to coordinate that effort, my husband said, why don't you consider having the windmill that stood in the barnyard, center of your barnyard, and pumped water for the livestock as the sage observer of time during that decade. And so we personified the windmill. It has a voice, it has a speaking voice, and pretty much opens and closes each chapter of the book. Sometimes it's philosophical, sometimes it speaks romantically about life on our farm and in North Dakota altogether. But the windmill, with that speaking voice that it has, offers a totally unique sound and feel to what we have given as you might say, a memoir, or even with history interwoven in between our specific remembrances of that time. So while the windmill watched, the title of our book comes from the aspect of the windmill and how it was a surveyor of what we did in our life, on our farm, in our community, and in all of North Dakota.
Well, that will help bring it around for every age group as far as reading the books. So it's something that folks could read to their kids or grandkids when there's a perspective like that. So that's pretty cool. Do you feel like your experiences in this area are unique to Menoken, or do you think it kind of just tells a North Dakota story?
I think it tells a North Dakota story of that time. There were many small farming communities, and they then became cohesive, and they were a unit. And this book tells not only about our family, but about our community. And I would venture to guess many other communities. Janine and I were both involved in 4-H for 9 years, and gathering together with other 4-H members, I feel that they also had some of the same experiences that we had.
Mm-hmm. We have been told that when people have read our book, that it's hard to put it down because they can identify with so many of experiences, and it just brings warm memories to them. And interestingly too, when you're in a group of conversation, that people start relating to each other and interject what their life was like in that time and how they can identify with that time in America, for rural America, and how it bettered their lives as well.
And I want to say one thing. One of my friends who is not a farmer at all, he grew up in the city, he said, I had no idea that this was the way a farm, what happened on a farm. And he was just very excited about learning about something he had no idea about, rural life.
You know, I grew up in a big city, and I did not know that in the 50s, people didn't have electricity. It just seemed unthinkable to me. So that aspect is interesting, and I really do think it's a slice of life of rural America, because the rural communities, they really were separate back then. I mean, no electricity, no TV, no telephone. You didn't just drive into town very easily because usually the town was far away, and it still is for some people. So we're going to talk more about this when we come back with Ladies of Another View on Beck.
Respect, innovation, trust, and excellence. These core values can be seen in every building built by Straightway Construction. In the community for over 15 years, Straightway Construction has become the premier construction company for commercial projects. From dirt to design and framing to finish, Straightway Construction is your #1 choice. You won't have to look far to find a project that has that Straightway touch. Call them today or go online to straightwayconstruction.com and let them make your vision a reality.
If you don't know what's going on in education in this country, then you don't know what's going to happen in the future of this country. And it's important. I'm Dr. Duke.
And I'm Katie.
Watch the Dr. Duke Show weekdays at 4 p.m. Central Time on Beck TV.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota. Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county.
Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
I'm Rick Becker from No Apologies. Welcome to your after hours oasis of sanity. How can these people not see that they're just clowns?
We help simplify and educate you on things going on in the legislature and around the country.
Asking the hard-hitting questions.
But also having Lee Stack and Sid and Marty Croft stuff, and we've talked about that sometimes. It's bad.
Watch us weeknights at 9 Central on Beck News and online at beck.news.
Pub 21, your one stop for fun, drinks, and food. Our spacious facility provides COVID-safe fun for you and all your friends. With nightly bingo and specials, you can be sure there's something to do for everyone. If you're staying in for the night, we've got you covered just across the way with Pub 21 Liquor. We have a wide variety of options, from wine to whiskey and everything in between. Stop in today at 1014 South 12th Street in Bismarck to see what all the buzz is about. You won't be disappointed.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck, and we're going to continue our conversation with the Pfeiffer sisters. We have Jackie and Janine, and they have written a book called While the Windmill Watched, a slice of rural America in the 1950s.
It is.
And we're having fun exploring how different the world is in no small way when you start thinking about no electricity, no TV, no phone, and we were talking during the break, no sunscreen, although that maybe that was better that way in some ways, or mosquito repellent, no washers and dryers, right?
Correct.
So I remember too, you know, when I think of the title of the book, While the Windmill Watched, you know, we all say, if these walls could talk, you literally brought a windmill to life, and that windmill is telling the story.
Indeed.
So I think that's interesting.
Thank you.
Right, very creative. And life was simpler back then, and you really, it makes you nostalgic reading it. But if you could go back in time, would you like to be living during those times, simpler times, or do you like it better today with all our modern conveniences?
I would say I like a little bit of both. One of the things that it bothers me that families do not worship together. Parents don't take their children to church or Sunday school. And I really feel that your life needs to be grounded. And that is often not found. And I think because we're all spread out, we're in cities, the community-ness of everybody going to church, as happened in our town, you either went to the Catholic Church or they went to the Protestant Church, which at that time was the Methodist Church. And when we did things together, everybody did something. It didn't matter where you went to church. We were all there together as a community. I do like the convenience of the internet and telephone, etc. So I'd like a little bit of both. I guess I can't answer that.
Yeah, I do too. I think when we get nostalgic, we think about the good parts and forget that, well, they also had inconveniences. But you talk about that in your book, that the church was the center of the community, regardless of which church you went to.
Yes, yes. Interestingly, at the time, our church, which was the Minoka Methodist Church, did not have running water, did not have a sewer system. Our town hall, which was the center of a lot of activities, social activities in our community, the same with that, did not have running water or indoor bathroom facilities. And so most often, because my dad was very involved in the leadership of the community, we would fill cream cans of water and take them to either the church if there was a men's pancake supper to raise money for the church, or if there was an event, any event at the hall, we would provide the water for washing dishes or for drinking. And of course, there was an outhouse. There was not an indoor facility. And, interestingly, because our home was one of the few in the community that had running water and a septic system. And of course, our grade school did too. But I always thought it was a treat to be at our friends' homes because I had this new sense that I didn't have to, I could go outside to go to the bathroom in this little outhouse, or I could take a drink of water out of the dipper and the bucket. There wasn't a sink that I could go to draw a glass of water.
That's interesting. Some of the other things I thought were kind of cool or nostalgic about your book were the recipes. And I would assume, looking at the ones that were in there, that these are things that you kind of did at holiday times or special events, or if you had to take something to a church supper.
Yes. Yes, that is correct. Mom rarely made homemade candy unless it was at Christmas time. The Minokan Homemakers Club, which I call the welcome wagon of our community, was very instrumental in having a candy and then eventually a candy and cookie exchange at Christmas time. So that's when Mom would bring out the pot and make Dad's favorite, his peanut butter fudge. And so he was always very glad about that, to have that time of the year. Or she would make her chocolate fudge, and those recipes are in the book. Other recipes, one of my favorites always was Peggy Owen's chocolate cake recipe. Her recipe was very well known in our community, not necessarily made by her, but made by our neighbor Maureen Kershaw, who would bring them to social events in the community.
And it's so nice that you give credit to the neighbor, because back then, in that day, I tell you what, if you had a recipe and someone else used it, you had to give credit to the person that had that recipe.
Absolutely.
Those were fighting words. They really were.
Yes.
But so I haven't had a chance to read the entire book, but how many siblings were there? Was it just the two of you girls, or did you have some brothers and sisters?
Just us? Yes. We tell the whole story, but we worked both indoors and outdoors. We did a lot of activity outdoors with livestock, with the cattle and sheep. That was primarily the livestock that was on our farm, at least when I was a child. Dad had some hogs ahead of that. But when he got arthritis, then he had to make a decision if he was going to keep the hogs, if he was going to stay milking cows, or what we were going to do in order for us to have spending money for piano lessons, for voice lessons, for groceries. And so he's ended up avoiding getting out of milking, because those were shorthorn cows that were dual purpose cows that could be used for either milking or for beef. And then he sold the hogs. We got very intensely into a chicken flock. And because that ended up being our spending money. And Jackie and I were very involved with those chores, the chicken chores, the processing of chickens in order to sell them to many times people in Bismarck, as well as for our own food, our own consumption. And then, of course, there was the weekly cleaning of the chicken house. That was done with our whole family, all four of us. We were a family of people who worked together in operating the farm, and especially Mom and Dad. They were a team. Even though Mom's role was in the home and she had a huge garden, but they were a team in making decisions.
I love that you said your mom was in the home, but you had a homemakers club back then. You don't see many homemakers club anymore. And I thought, wow, that really is a throwback to the 50s. And Jackie, I saw a picture in the book of you 2 years old on a horse named Diamond. That was his name. And that
Yes.
horse looked so big. He almost looked like a Clydesdale. And there's a little 2-year-old sitting on the horse. And I thought, it was a different time back then when, you kids did more, right? Like
Now
at a
they'd have
younger
a
age.
helmet
I was
and
just gonna
safety
say
pads
that,
and
yes.
straps and,
True.
You had a little more freedom, more responsibility too, right?
Well, it was very responsible. That little picture it was always a treat after Dad would use the horses. Then he'd put us up on them, and my little hands, my arms were short, and I have to stretch forward to reach those hames to hang on. We would go to the tank and the windmill had supplied that water at the tank, and then he'd take us back to the barn, and we'd have to duck our heads while the horses went into their stall, and then we got off the horse, and then Dad took the harnesses off. So it was fun.
Jackie and Janine, I want to thank you for being on today. And you can still, anybody watching this today, you can catch them at the Dakota Bookstore in Jamestown. They're going to be there until 7 this evening. And I'll say goodbye to you, and then we'll put up, there we go. We'll put up where you're going to be in North Dakota. You're doing a little bit of a tour.
Yes, and we do want to mention too that our book is available at 19 different locations within the state of North Dakota, but our main distributor is the NDSU bookstore. And so you can go to our website, whilethewindmillwatch.com, and click on the purchase here, and that order, it goes directly to the bookstore, and they are happy to send the book to you.
Well, wonderful. I hope lots of people come out and you sign lots of books today.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for being on.
Thank you. We appreciate this.
Been a pleasure.
We'll be right back with Father Mateg, and he's going to talk about some of the stuff, transgender mandates in the Biden administration when we come back with Ladies of Another View on Beck.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
Hop in the rig and go down the road with me. We'll cover local and national stories that impact you.
What happens with national debt? Does anybody even care anymore?
Do you think Governor Burgum truly understands the legislative process?
I think he's got a better understanding now than he did 2 years ago.
Why in the world are we having a conversation about being anti-vaccination? Down the Road with Joel Heitkamp weekdays at 5:30 Central on Beck News and online at beck.news.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled MyPillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm gonna pass the savings directly on to you. For example, you get my 6-piece towel sets, regular $109.99, now only $44.98, or MyPillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
Ever been in a cave before?
It's our first time.
All right.
Where are you going?
I'll see you at the car!
How will we?
The car! Your offer has been accepted. Ever bought a house before?
It's our first time.
All right.
Where are you going?
I'll see you at the closing.
But how will we?
The closing!
Hey everybody, I'm Doug Billings, your host of The Right Side with Doug Billings on Beck News. We bring you high-profile guests, ladies and gentlemen, exclusive guests. Now, you're not going to see these guests in most of the mainstream media outlets. Another thing that I do here is give guests a platform to speak freely. You're not going to see me censor anybody. Please join us, won't you? Weeknights right here on Beck TV and online at beck.news. Cheers.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck. And we have in this next segment Father Robert Matej. And he is going to talk to us about what's going on in the Biden administration with a number of things, like the transsexual medical mandate and why it's going to be harmful to all of us. But first, let's welcome on Father Matej.
Well,
Hello,
hello there.
Father.
Glad to be with you. Hello,
Welcome
hello.
to
Glad
the
to be
show.
with you all. Thank you for your invitation.
Glad to see the haircut. You told me yesterday you got a haircut for the show, so good
Yeah.
job.
Yes, I did.
Looks
Yes, I
good.
did. Thank you.
I was surprised. You are a Jesuit priest, and you also have a radio
Mhm.
show. You're the host and producer of the Catholic Current on the
Yes.
Station of the Cross.com radio program. And you
Mhm.
also, you taught and lectured in North and South Central America, Europe, Asia, and you teach classes in both rhetoric and medical ethics.
Yes.
So let's talk medical ethics.
Okay.
You are
I'm on the
warning.
National Ethics Committee for the Catholic Medical Association. So, yeah, I've been doing this a while.
All right, good point. And you are warning people against what's going on in the Biden administration on a number of different fronts. Do you want to tell us about that?
Right. Right. One of the really hot issues now is the transgender issue. And sadly, whenever I say that, I have to preface this with, I don't hate anyone. I'm not advocating violence against anyone. I do have compassion for people who experience gender transphoria. They should get the help and the relief that they need. What I'm very greatly concerned about is we're redefining about what it means to be male and female. Apparently it's something that you can just decide, and that a child who is experiencing some kind of confusion, rather than getting compassion and therapy and waiting, is ushered into someone who's got both a scalpel and a prescription pad. This is disastrous for all sorts of reasons. This is going to mess with providing health care. There are regulations that are beginning to unfold that can be a great threat to Catholic doctors, to Catholic institutions, that if Sally wants to become Sammy at age 13 and you don't show up with the scalpel and the prescription pad, you could lose funding. You could lose your license. This has terrible impact for sports, women's sports, the whole bathroom, shower, locker room issue. And really, just the other day in a federal budget where they talked about maternity care, they couldn't even talk about mothers. They called them birthing persons. So in addition to real practical, concrete regulatory changes, we're poisoning the culture. We're taking the language away from being a conveyance of real meaning. This isn't good for anyone.
Father, did you hear about the 60 Minutes program a week ago from last Sunday? And they talked about the transgender issue. And they got a lot of backlash because they had several people on there that were retransitioning back to their original sex. Now, they
Right.
did share both sides. They had people
Yes.
very pro the sex change surgeries and treatments,
Mhm.
but they got a lot of backlash, and which to me shows an agenda. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, sure. I mean, I was pleasantly surprised that they had people who said, "Hey, I tried to make a transition. I had regrets. I'm back to normal again. I'm going to accept the sex that I had. Not that I was assigned at birth. That's the language they use. That's ridiculous. Your sex is determined from the moment of conception. Full stop. That's the science. It's not in dispute." I was surprised that they were allowed to have that at all, because the illusion, the story is if you wake up one day or you confirm a hunch that you always had that God made a mistake and you're in the wrong kind of body, there are things you can do to fix it, and then you live happily ever after. The data, however, shows something very different. There's a tremendous amount of regret. Even with, it's not like I decided to color my hair. If you have a young girl who starts taking testosterone and regrets it after 3 months, she might have altered her voice forever and maybe even possibly impaired her fertility. And that sort of thing doesn't show up in the footnotes.
Right, they're shutting down the conversation, which is why I call it an agenda, because they're not just looking at the issue and being open to it. They're very closed off to the fact that people are getting hurt by this. And during my research, I found there was a program on 60 Minutes Australia version from 2 years earlier, and there was a boy at 13 who was just sure he was meant to be a girl. He got progesterone and what's the other hormone? He got estrogen treatments, developed breasts, and then 2 years into it realized, you know what, I think I can be happy in the body I was born into, and was having to transition back and have surgery to remove the breasts. And a lot of these kids typically are permanently sterile because of the drugs that they took to transition. It's horrendous what's going on. And that conversation is being shut down in a big way.
Right. You know, I've talked to a lot of pediatricians, and they say a basic principle of pediatric medicine is wait, go slow. And that's been working as long as there have been pediatricians. But in this case, there seems to be a very tremendous rush to give kids hormones, to set them up for surgery. You know, we don't let them drive, we don't let them vote, purchase alcohol or firearm, and that we're going to give them an opportunity for life-altering drugs when their brains aren't fully formed yet. This is a terrible mistake for all sorts of reasons. And I think, again, what's especially pernicious is we're setting up a culture where if you ask Sally or Sammy at age 3 or 4, are you a boy or a girl, all they had to do was look down and get a confident answer. But the regime of transgender ideology says, no, you cannot trust your lion eyes. You can't trust what's obvious. But the popular culture can tell you the real story about the real you, and that story is always changing. That's a terrible environment to raise children in.
So the pediatricians are calling it gender dysphoria.
Right.
But when you think about it, a lot of these kids, if they weren't told or given information on this isn't something they would come up with on their own at all.
Right.
It takes an adult to interfere in the thought process of the child, does it not?
Well, yeah, I don't think a child 9, 10, 11, 12 years old has the conceptual apparatus to talk about gender fluidity or moving beyond the gender binary or heteronormativity. That's something that has to be introduced by an adult. And sad to say, there are adults who are stampeding to lead that trend. There is a website you can go to where you can get knitted, for lack of a better term, appendages to strap on your infant child if you think your infant child may be gender confused or transgendered as an infant. So to get you and the child used to the idea that they have an appendage they weren't born with. That's monstrous. That's madness, and shame on the adults who participate in that.
Agreed. Very much so.
That is so disturbing. I never even heard that.
Yes, it is.
There's a Reddit group of over 19,000 people that regret their transitions. I mean, they're retransitioning back. I get confused with all the little alphabets and sexes. Like when they say, you know, this is a transgender male, I'm not sure who it is. This is all very confusing.
Right.
And especially for the kids that are getting rushed into it in the state of Oregon, I understand that once they're 16, if their parents don't agree, the state will step in and give them and we only have a minute to go, but isn't this child abuse and taking away parental rights?
Yeah, well, there are states where the children have been moved by men who've got badges and guns because a 13-year-old wasn't having their transition accepted by the parents. This is horrifying. This is beyond 1984.
Truly.
I don't know how this is happening, that it's not just like some small segment of the population that lost their mind.
Get involved in your school boards.
Yeah.
It's happening at that level.
Yes,
homeschooling.
it is.
Yes.
It's time to
100%.
homeschooling again.
Thank you. Yes,
we just have
to
a
get
few
involved.
seconds left of this segment. I just want to shout out too. Today is Mandan's school board voting. It's open till 7 o'clock tonight. Get out there and vote and vote and vote.
Yes.
Just get out there and do it.
But just vote once.
Just vote once. Right. This is North Dakota.
All right.
Still just vote once. But anyway, it's up at the Braves Center, up at the swimming pool.
Okay, Father Matej, we're going to continue this conversation. I want to talk about the Hyde Amendment. Something's happening that never happened before when we come right back with Ladies of Another View on Beck.
Since opening in Hebron in 1940, Dakota Community Bank and Trust has been your hometown bank. Our mission has been to provide modern banking convenience with old-fashioned hometown service. We've grown with the communities we serve through year-round events, countless sponsorships, and nearly 7,000 hours of volunteering each year. Learn more about our 80-year history at dakotacommunitybank.com.
Hop in the rig and go down the road with me. We'll cover local and national stories that impact you. What happens with national debt? Does anybody even care anymore? Do you think Governor Burgum truly understands the legislative process?
You know, I think he's got a better understanding now than he did 2 years ago.
Why in the world are we having a conversation about being anti-vaccination? Down the Road with Joel Heitkamp weekdays at 5:30 Central on Beck News and online at beck.news.
Respect, innovation, trust, and excellence. These core values can be seen in every building built by Straightway Construction. In the community for over 15 years, Straightway Construction has become the premier construction company for commercial projects. From dirt to design and framing to finish, Straightway Construction is your #1 choice. You won't have to look far to find a project that has that Straightway touch. Call them today or go online to straightwayconstruction.com and let them make your vision a reality.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got my pillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled MyPillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm going to pass the savings directly on to you. Go to MyPillow.com right now to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. For example, you can get my premium MyPillows regularly $69.98, now just $29.98, the lowest price ever.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck, and we are being rejoined by Father Robert Mateg. And you host a radio show, and you just wrote the book, Real Philosophy for Real People, Tools for Truthful Living. And I love that there's so much truth coming out of you that we don't often get to hear. And we talked during the break about some of the craziness, like where did it all begin, especially with all the gender confusion?
Well, I think we have to go back to the 1960s and the emergence of the pill and the growing enthusiasm for sex outside of marriage. Once you separate sexuality from fertility, and once you separate sexuality and fertility from absolute monogamous commitment between man and woman in marriage, which is the cornerstone of society, it's the family. Once you take that away, any line that you draw, anywhere that you can say, no, this far and no farther, that's merely arbitrary. And you want to say, why not? But if you take a look at how the wisdom of bodies are made, God is telling a story about reality in himself and making us as male and female. And when you understand what male and female are and how they work and what they work together, then it's really pretty obvious what sexuality is for. It's about producing the next generation and bonding parents to secure the next generation into a happy, healthy future. Once you take that foundation away, it's all up for grabs. So in a certain sense, this shouldn't be surprising. It's the inevitable consequence of the rise of the contraceptive mentality and the separation of sexuality from fertility and both from marriage.
And this is a message for everybody because we have among our hosts a number of different denominations. And every once in a while we'll have a Catholic priest on, but we'll have people of all denominations. But your message is for everybody, right?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Interdenominational.
Don't be fooled by how I'm dressed. Notice I haven't mentioned a church pronouncement or scripture once. I'm just referring to very obvious common sense and what's available in terms of human wisdom and experience. Whether I'm Catholic or not doesn't affect what I'm talking about, because what I'm talking about in this case is distinctively human. If you want to do the theology, I'm willing to do that too, but don't dismiss me out of hand just because I'm wearing this.
You know, it was interesting. It was last winter we were at a restaurant, and I was on my way to the restroom, and I overheard this gentleman talking to a gal, and she was maybe in her mid-30s, and I think he was trying to like hit on her, but that's beside the point. Anyway, he had asked if she had any kids, and she said, yes, I have one. And he goes, a boy or a girl? And she said, well, it's 3, and it hasn't identified its gender yet. And this is a grown woman in her 30s with a child out of wedlock, and the child doesn't even know if it's a boy or a girl yet because she hasn't decided what gender it wanted to be. And
She hasn't ever changed its diaper?
Well,
if you had a urinary tract infection, how would you respond to the suggestion of circumcision?
Yeah.
It's really different depending upon whether or not you're really sexually a boy or a girl. No, it's this kind of nonsense, and I don't want to attribute motive to anyone. I'll simply say this much: this is not what happy, healthy people do, and this is certainly not what you want to do if you want to raise healthy children to build a sound moral civilization. We really can't afford to play these games because lives and souls are at stake.
Well, how do you even deal with it when you have somebody that's the head of Health and Human Services at the national level is a person that is pretending to be a woman? I mean, I don't know how to say it nicely anymore.
Well, God bless Dr. Levine. I commend everyone to God's mercy. But look, I would not promote myself as the obvious product of working out every day at the gym. I'm a middle-aged, overweight man. I'm not the bastion of physical health. Candidly, I don't think Dr. Levine is going to be the poster child for a sound mental health. I just have to say that. Happy, healthy people who understand human bodies and the human psyche don't present themselves as Dr. Levine does. I don't hate him, I don't wish him ill, but I have no inclination to follow his example or his purported wisdom. And when Senator Rand Paul questioned him during hearings, he said, oh, we can talk about that after I'm appointed. We can meet in your office privately. Not only where there were no cameras, but where he's not under oath anymore, but otherwise he dodged the question about whether or not he'd recommend hormones and surgery for children who haven't reached puberty yet. So I'm really not interested in taking him seriously, except recognizing that he's a serious danger.
The only problem is he's a public figure, and children view public figures and take their advice, and that's frightening to me.
And
that's where parents have to step up. Parents have to take control of what comes into their homes and what comes into the senses of their children. Parents need to be hyper vigilant. I was talking to a mom the other day who's got 2 young girls, 11 and 13, and she was filling out the opt-out form for the school district so her girls wouldn't be immersed in the HIV/AIDS prevention program that the middle school offers. And I said, oh, have they heard about the gender unicorn yet? And she said, no, and they're not going to. Those are parents who are involved. My parents 50 years ago thought you could drop me off at the public school and I'd just be fine. That wasn't true 50 years ago. It's certainly not true now. Parents have to be involved in every aspect of their children's life, because if they're not the gatekeepers, someone's going to take control.
And they do have to be careful of what's going on in the schools. We did homeschool for 19 years,
Yes.
and we sent our kids to St. Mary's. And the problem is you can opt out, but the kids know which kids opted out.
Right.
They might feel like, oh, your parents don't let you in. The conversations, just the peer pressure and the atmosphere.
Because the kids who were not opted out got a set of categories and vocabulary that they didn't have before and wouldn't have discovered on their own, and that's going to show up in playground conversation. They're going to be texting each other, et cetera, et cetera. This is a really bad idea.
It is, and you end up being undermined as a parent because you're sending your kids to school where they're looking up to the teachers and the curriculum, and they're being taught something separate, so there becomes to be a little bit of conflict there. But I want to move on to the Hyde Amendment because Biden wants to get rid of it, and it's been in force since 1976 to prevent public money from paying for abortions, right? Do you want to explain a little bit about that?
Sure. Hyde was probably one of the last genuine pro-life Catholic Democrats in Congress, and it forbade the use of federal funds to go towards abortion. Sadly, the Hyde Amendment, as it's written, has proved to be porous over the years. But apparently the people in charge now can't think of an abortion that they don't like or don't want or are hesitant about, and can't find an abortion they're not willing to pay for. So let's be very clear. It's not that we can accept certain politicians because tragically they allow for abortions for tragic, sad situations. They want to normalize and propagandize the cult of abortion, and I use that term very deliberately, the cult of abortion, and they want your tax dollars at work to pay really for blood money. The people who won't even allow you to vote for the Born Alive Protection Act now want to take money out of your pocket and give it to people who murder children for a living. Shame on them. This is not confusing. This is not a hard topic. It's simply monstrous, and it has to be identified as such.
So how do people funnel their outrage with a topic like this?
Well, pray, of course, vote, and they need to let their bishops know. The bishops are going to be meeting this month to have a conversation about what to do with pro-abortion, self-identified Catholic politicians. Let them know that they need to be held to account and that God is watching, and be hyper vigilant with what is being brought to your children's attention.
And I want to we only have a minute left, and I want to bring attention to your new book, Real Philosophy for Real People, Tools for Truthful Living. And you've given us a sample of that, right, just in some of our conversation. And you can find, go ahead.
The elevator pitch is it's a lie detector and a truth detector and a lie refuter and a truth promoter all in one volume.
Amen.
Awesome.
So where can we find that book?
Ignatius.com. I got shadow banned for a little while from Amazon. So Ignatius.com, ideally your local Catholic bookstore. You could find it anywhere online in paperback and Kindle form.
And I will post this on our Facebook page too. We have Ladies of Another View Facebook page. We have over 7,000 people following us, and I will post a link
Very good.
to your book there.
Thank you so much. I'm grateful.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
God bless you. It was a pleasure working with you.
Thank
you.
you.
Keep it in prayer.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
God bless you too. And we'll be right back with Ladies of Another View for the lighter side on Beck.
Respect, innovation, trust, and excellence. These core values can be seen in every building built by Straightway Construction. In the community for over 15 years, Straightway Construction has become the premier construction company for commercial projects. From dirt to design and framing to finish, Straightway Construction is your #1 choice. You won't have to look far to find a project that has that Straightway touch. Call them today or go online to straightwayconstruction.com and let them make your vision a reality.
Deciding how to promote your business can be hard. Visit the professionals at Dakota Promotions and Printing and let them help you through your struggle. Dakota Promotions provides promotional items and apparel, from corporate gifts to team shirts and everything in between. With quick turnaround times and friendly service, they are your best choice. And best yet, you're shopping local. Visit them online at dakotapromo.com or stop in their showroom at 320 West Main in Mandan. Dakota Promotions, delivering promotions just for you.
Every great pizza has a secret. At New York To Go, that secret lies in our perfectly recreated New York water, the key ingredient to making our signature New York-style pizza. We also feature gyros, with the region's only gyro meat spit, plus Nathan's hot dogs, calzones, and our delicious jumbo buffalo wings. Try a 14-inch or our special giant 20-inch pizza tonight. You gotta know how to fold them if you want to hold them. New York To Go, we deliver for you.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Arrow Service Team does it all.
Hey Bucks fans, if you're planning an outing, birthday, or employee appreciation night, then bring your group out to the Buck Stop for a night of fast-paced, high-scoring football. Your group will receive discounted tickets, options for reserved seating, scoreboard messages, VIP services, swag, and a space to gather during the game. You can also participate in pre-game ceremonies, halftime entertainment, in-game contests, and more. Call 701-595-0771 or visit bismarckbucks.com/tickets. All GA is first come, first serve. We'll see you on the turf. Go Bucks!
I'm Rick Becker from No Apologies. Welcome to your after hours oasis of sanity.
How can these people not see that they're just clowns?
We help simplify and educate you on things going on in the legislature and around the country.
Asking the hard-hitting questions.
But also having Lee Stack and Sid and Marty Croft stuff, and we've talked about that sometimes. It's bad.
Watch us weeknights at 9 Central on Beck News and online at beck.news.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck, and we are already on the lighter side. I have a little different lighter side today.
Just a little.
Usually it's something cute or funny, and to me this is light because it's a rap artist, somebody who I would look at and think, well, we don't have anything in common, and yet
Really?
this new rap song is mocking snowflakes, and everything that's coming out of his mouth, I would say, yeah, I agree with that. So let's take a listen.
If you lie to the government, they'll put you in prison. But when they lie to all of us, it's called being a politician. You think taking guns away will save our kids from the killings? But you're pro-choice, abortion kills way more children. If America's so terrible and racist, it probably isn't safe to encourage immigration. Just saying, all the contradictions are embarrassing. You know who hates America the most? Americans. Trigger warnings used to be on TV for seizures, and now they're everywhere to protect millennials' feelings. They blurred the lines dividing communism and democracy. In 2021, we paint the patriots as Nazis. The men playing women's sports get trophies for winning. Like, great, let's celebrate a man for beating some women. If you're black, your life matters, you're supposed to embrace it. If you're rich or you're smart, then you're probably Asian. If you're gay, then you're brave. All of that I'm okay with. But if you're white, the stereotype is you are a racist. Blaming capitalism like that's the reason things are tough. While you tweet from an iPhone and sip on a Starbucks, you're supporting what you stand against. You don't think you are, but a Percocet addict don't donate money to pharma. Damn, dog, we're all afraid to speak the truth. And the more afraid we get, the more we hate the ones who do. You're ashamed to be American? Okay, that's cool. Cause honestly, we are all ashamed of you too.
Y'all are so fake. Oh no. The forecast said that there'd be snowflakes. Whoa. You can make us see it your way. No way. Gasoline and propane. More flames. Oh no. No more snowflakes.
We can all get along, but there's no stopping. Ay, everybody's wrong, that's a real problem. Ay, they don't want to hear it, but they still talking. Ay, soon enough, we running out of options. Ay, this ain't gonna end till it's in the coffin. Ay, we ain't gonna be friends till we try to squash it. Ay, I don't know how we can make amends or we drop it. Snowflakes melt when it's hot, kid.
I don't usually listen to rap music, and I don't know that I will, but he had 3.5 million views in 72 hours.
Amen.
And my son told me, nobody's heard of him, Mom, and he looked it up and he texted me, well, he's an up-and-coming rap artist.
Well, if you had that many views in that short of an amount of time, it's got to be the message that's coming through versus the person.
Right?
Well,
Good
and
point, Jan.
Soon to be canceled, though, I would imagine. He's going to be banned off of just about every social platform available because that's what they do when there's a message out there against what's going on in America today. So if you can find him now, because I think it'd be good and helpful to have the words underneath the song, because I have a hard time listening to rap, I really do. But it has a fantastic message.
Yes, except I did have to be very careful. I cut parts of it out that I wouldn't put on the screen.
A little bit of
because
language.
Somebody, well, it wasn't language.
language.
Somebody was giving the finger, and I said,
Yeah.
well, we can't have that, and why do they have that? I don't know, it's a different world, but I was surprised that somebody like him was saying those kind of lyrics.
And because the message is pure and the message is a good one, they're probably going to diss everything about him. The fact that he's white, the fact that he doesn't wrap like some of the people of other colors might. It's all going to happen. Just watch and see.
Yeah, but thanks for sharing that, because I listened to it on the way. Carmen had actually enlightened me
Yes.
onto him, and I listened to several of his songs on the way to town today, and it's every single one of them was to the point, and just about how we have to stand and fight for America, and that's what our whole last week was about, going down to Texas.
Absolutely.
And standing up for what's right. That's what the priest talked about. You know, that's what we need to talk about, and you need to talk about. We have to continue down this road to get the message across that we're not going to lose America. It's time to take it back.
All right, and then we shouldn't just back down and play dead, and that it's not the people that shout the loudest. You know, we get shouted down, and I don't know who his audience is going to be, because he sounds like he could have been at one of these
about half of
patriotic
America.
rallies. But I'm happy that he's getting that message out there, that they're not just being all brainwashed and hearing one thing. And I really want to suggest and recommend Father's book that we had on, Father Mateig, in the last segment, because boy, did he
What's the
talk
name of
sense.
it?
Real Philosophy for Real People, Tools for Truthful Living. So if you can look that up, I think you'll hear a lot more truth and good.
Hey, so
good
we only have
information. Yep,
like
go
less
ahead.
than or about a minute left. I just want to point out, I went to the Bucks game again this weekend, and although we didn't lose this, or we didn't win this time, it was still a fantastic game. And if you guys if you have nothing to do this weekend, or set things aside, get out and go to the Bucks games. Kids 18 and under are free. You guys, there's air conditioning if you need it, or if it's going to rain and hail, you know, they got a roof. You guys,
I think
it's
they're
fun.
on the road this weekend, though.
I
think I heard that today.
Oh.
I'll have to check the schedule.
Yes.
Check the schedule.
Check the schedule.
And you know what? Tune in
Bucks.com?
tomorrow, and I'm going to let you know.
Yes.
I'll let you know the next game.
Bucks.com. Go look them up.
Right. So any parting words?
Oh, I
Got
think
any rap for us,
No,
Jan?
it's not going to happen
Hey,
from this
I'm gonna,
girl.
I'm going to tell everybody, during the commercial break, you play the air guitar all the time, so just a matter of time. We'll get you
Tunes
on
in
air
my
doing
head.
it. Yeah.
Okay, so nope, I don't have anything else. Just get out and see the Bucks, follow them.
And vote in Mandan for school board.
Right. Yeah.
Until 7 o'clock tonight. Get out there and do it. Get some conservative values back into our community.
Yes, definitely. You know, speak up, get involved. We need to hear your voices. So thank you for joining us once again. Stay tuned for Down the Road with Joel Heitkamp, and we'll be back again tomorrow with Ladies of Another View on Beck.